Good day, Nigeria. My name is Marco Tabo, and you are watching The Big Show. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now get on to the show quickly. Ifeanyi 36 works on the island in Lagos. He earns $400,000 a month and lives in Egbeda, where he pays $800,000 a year for a modest 2-bedroom flat. Life is tough, but manageable. Then one day, his landlord dies, and after the grand burial, the landlord's son takes over, and everything changes. Rent is hiked to 1.8 million naira. Ifeanyi begs. He's given just a 50,000 naira discount, and that's it. He searches for another apartment, but everywhere, even worse, 2 million and above. Where is Ifeanyi supposed to go? How does he survive? Today on The Big Issue, we ask, should the government take over tenancy rent regulation in Nigeria? Is regulation the rescue or just more red tape? Let's find out. If you're just joining us, this is still The Big Show. All right. Fantastic. Now, joining us today are two passionate legal minds who see this from very different lenses. First, we have Valentino Buoro, Esquire, founder of the Landlords and Tenants' Rights Initiative and a longtime advocate for private property rights. And he says, no, the government should not take over rent regulation. Please welcome Buoro to the platform quickly. Keep clapping, keep clapping. Thank you so much. Welcome. All right, on the other side of the debate, we have Barrister Ndidi, right? Toyin, a public interest lawyer and housing rights activist. She argues that the abuse in the housing sector is just too much, and it's time for government to step in and regulate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Barrister Toyin to the platform. Take your stand. So good to see you. So good to see you. Fantastic. Gentlemen, ladies, the conversation begins right after this break. If you're just joining us, this is The Big Show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's still The Big Show. Now, let's go straight in. Mr. Buoro, quickly, why should the government not take over tenancy rent regulation?
Yeah, when you ask if the government should take over the tenancy rent regulation in Nigeria, the first question that comes into mind is, are the properties those of the government? The issue here is that tenancy worldwide is a foundation of contract, an agreement between two parties, the tenant and the landlord. The government has laws that takes care of the generality of issues. But when it comes to tenancy, the tenant should take an apartment that is capable of paying for. And so what is the role of the government in this? Government should only create an enabling environment where the tenant who is coming to take over an apartment should be able to, the capacity, the ability to pay, because the economy is good, because he or she is employed. That is the basic function of government. Government shouldn't step into private property management. Yes, sir. Every landlord, landlords establish or build properties more often as a fallback in their old age. Yes. By the time they are doing this, By the time they are doing this, they are anticipating that the proceeds from those properties should be able to take care of them at the time that they are building. Did the government step in to regulate the prices of the cement? The price of land? No. So if government wants to take over the regulation of property, maybe we should start from the basic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, Barrister Tony, you heard everything he said.
Yes.
How do you reconcile some of the points he raised with regards to regulation of properties with the government stepping in?
Yes, man is generally perceived as being very greedy. And if you do not regulate this innate desire to oppress others, it's going to become something that would generally degrade to punishing being an oppressor.
Okay.
So if man who now has a desire to acquire, has this avarice for material things, now has the power, the sole power to determine the fate of his fellow man, I think there's going to be an abuse of power. So I believe that all over the world where governments are, if government steps aside from human relation, it generally becomes a Hobbesian society. It becomes something that human beings take advantage of. So I believe strongly that government should have a hand in the regulation of tenancy rates and even relations between tenants and landlords.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Pastor Bro, you heard what she said. She said, yes, man's unlimited desire to acquire, and we see how it is in our lives today, would always push them to not even consider the plight of people and keep the oppression going on. How do you reconcile that?
Yes, if we promote the foundation of landlord and tenant relationship as an agreement, it means that parties should be able to discuss, negotiate. Yes, every man has that temptation to want to exploit, to get the best of any situation. We say that every human being has a radio station on his chest, which has the call signal of WIFM. What is in it for me? So the landlord that is building the property is asking, what is in it for me? And then he wants to exploit it as much as possible. But that is where contract comes in. If your landlord tells you it's going to take 100 million, you would negotiate it to 10 million or 5 million according to your capacity. So it is not for the all-powerful government to sit somewhere doing nothing and throwing orders at the ordinary people. If the government wants to regulate, it should take the first step, build property, and regulate its own property.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
How do you respond?
So I appreciate the fact that Mr. Boye said that tenancy and landlord matter is a contractual agreement. Yeah. But we also know, we are both lawyers, and we know that no matter the contracts are still regulated. Yes. And the main basis of contracts, when there's a contract, there has to be the fundamental ingredient of not being oppressive to all parties concerned. And furthermore, we know, when he said also that when a landlord says 100 million, it is the right of the tenants to negotiate. We are in the field, we practice law. We know that most times the tenant does not have that right to negotiate. So if in practice, because what is in practice is different from what is in the book. So if in practice the tenants do not have a right to negotiate, why then do we push the buck back to the tenant to negotiate when he doesn't have that right at all.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Bo, this is really getting interesting.
Yes,
You heard her, yeah.
I would respectfully differ that the tenant does not have a right to negotiate. What is perhaps true is that the tenant may not know how to negotiate. Yes, because there is an imbalance of power.
Right.
Again, it depends on what type of tenant are we talking about. Yes. When you are talking of the ordinary vulnerable person who sees a landlord and calls him Baba landlord, whose father is a landlord? The landlord is nobody's father. The landlord is the lord of the land. Yes, but because the tenant is the underdog, that is why he regards the landlord as Baba landlord and Mama landlord.
All right. All right, Mr. Boro, the trajectory you're going through right now, let's paint this scenario very quickly.
Okay.
Now, you have someone who definitely knows that his salary is not even up to par. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that you said different houses, different negotiations should happen. Mm-hmm. But now, even a self-contained apartment has been hiked. Mm-hmm. Agent fees come into play. Mm-hmm. You have agreement fee. There's all those illegal fees before the main rent already hikes the price. Mm-hmm. So why are you not in support of someone saying, let the government step in and knock out all these middlemen that hikes these prices so that people can get what they want?
It goes back to same point one. Why is the landlord hiking his rent? It's economy. So it is because he too wants to survive. But I do disagree that there should be a limit. There should be some ethics about rental increment.
Okay. Barrister.
So I'm happy that Mr. Boye is towing my line now. And the line I have said is that government should regulate. Yes. He is now saying that he also appreciates the fact that there should be a limit. It is that limit that I am saying that government should come into. Mr. Mark made a point and painted the scenario. Look, the truth of the matter is that housing in Nigeria is no longer for the average income earner. And who are those who actually need houses? The low-income earners, the average to the low-income earners. Most of the high-income earners are landlords themselves. So the low-income earners and the average income earners are vulnerable.
All right, Barrister. Now, you have made your point.
Yes, please.
But we understand that when it comes to government operations, there's always going to be lapses. Let's take, for example, those who have built apartments and they came to demolish their houses. They start to cry and tell you, we went to the ministry, we went to the agencies, we got the documents. Now, a government operation that is so porous, where people can obtain legal documents to build a house, for a government to come back after 9-10 years to destroy that house, why should they trust the government?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for that question.
Right.
Yes, I will not, because I'm supporting that government should come into control of tenancy and landlord relationship. Right. I will not excuse the government for its failure in the past to build trust among its citizenry. The truth of the matter is that government has failed severally in that instance. But they say a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with a single step. Look, the low average income earners in Lagos are dying softly.
Not even Lagos alone. Port Harcourt, Abuja, everywhere.
Yes, the whole country.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, I know that government has, done some things in the past that has built this mistrust. But are we going to say, because government has done this in the past, that we will leave our citizens to die because of rent? No! So, the truth of the matter is that we Government must intervene because that is why government exists in the first place.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mr. Boro, I think you quite understand where she's also standing.
Yes,
that is why government is here, to checkmate every excesses, to curtail every, irregularities.
Yes.
And with what you have said, with those who own private properties, they can go berserk in the name of wanting to get back their investment.
Yes.
So how do we rescue this situation if you are standing on property owners' rights?
Property owners' rights, and I said there should be ethical considerations.
Okay.
Now, I don't need to stay in a duplex if I'm a staff, if I'm an employee. I do not need to stay in a 3-bedroom flat if I'm a bachelor. I'll have to look for an environment that is commensurate, that I can pay for. And aside the Lagos.
You're not clapping well. Come on. All right.
I came all the way to this program from a suburb of Lagos in Ogun State. Why don't I live in Lagos? You probably want to ask, why don't I live in Lagos? Because I couldn't afford the land as at the time I bought one. And again, the market can regulate itself. If people begin to stay off this high or expensive property and look for elsewhere, those with the expensive properties will begin to see vacant possessions, which they can be vacant places which nobody is feeling. And when that arises, they will come down.
Thank you. You heard him.
I'm glad that Mr. Boye said he's coming from a suburb of Lagos,
right,
in Ogun State, suburb in Ogun State, down to Lagos. Even the suburb is unaffordable for the average income earner. Government still has a stake. One, for me as a person and as a rights advocate, I would say that if government is very sincere, government should also try to build properties to balance this effect of demand. Because the truth remains that the population is more than the housing we have. There's a housing deficit. And let me tell you, government alone cannot provide the houses for everybody.
All right. Come on, put your hands together once again. Thank you so much. Well, of course, we have heard the two legal luminaries. Now, let's go on a short break. And when we return, for those of you just joining, this is still the big... Welcome back. You're still watching The Big... Now, let us hit things up a bit. Mr. Boro, Barrister Toyin says the market has failed the people. What do you say? Now, of course, Mr. Boro, how do you begin this crossfire? You have been very strong on the fact that if I build my property, why is the government even having a right to come step in, to come and regulate it? Where were they when I started building? Where were they when I bought the land? How do you start?
Yeah, we have traveled this road before. Lagos had a rent control law before now, where zones were giving specifics, a cap on the renters. What happened to that law? It was dropped because it could not be enforced. So, as a tenant, you go to, as a prospective tenant, you go to a landlord and say, look, government says your property should not be above 200,000. And the man says, okay, mine is over 200,000. Go and look for government property to let. So how do you control what you don't own is what I want my colleague to let me know.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Mr. Boro. You know, the truth of the matter is that most landlords do not see this investment in property building as a long-term investment. It is not something that they reap immediately. It is a long-term investment that you reap little by little. You cannot get everything you have invested in a property at once. Then another thing you said was that how can government regulate what they do not own? Why not? That is why they are government. For every facet of our lives, every facet of our lives as citizens in this country, there is government regulation. Even as we sit, as we talk, the Constitution is regulating our arguments now. Because I must not, in my bid to express my freedom of expression and speech, I must not go beyond the one that will defame you. I will not go beyond what will insult you. So, government has a right. Even though government is not the owner of the property, government has a right to regulate it.
Mr. Boro.
It's interesting because you're talking government deals with public law.
Yes.
Private and property law is between me and you. Yes. So when you talk about contract, the courts, you know, the law says nobody can make up a contract for anybody.
Exactly.
And the court is very strong on that.
Yes.
So worldwide, landlord and tenant matters are contractual. So where is the role of the government?
Even though I agree with you that private and property law is personal law, but even the personal law, both of us know that it's still regulated by laws. The tenancy law regulates even the tenant and the landlord contractual agreement. Even will, you are making a will to give something out to your own property, you want to give it out to beneficiaries. There is a law regulating it. You cannot do it just on your own.
Mr. Boro.
Yeah, you see, the interesting aspect of it is that you're looking at it from the general perspective. The landlord and tenant law regulates tenancy issues.
Yes, true.
For instance, I was at the last public hearing for the law coming in, and I said at that event that I'm not very comfortable with the new law coming in because globally, landlord and tenant laws are not fair in the sense of fairness from our ordinary level. The question is that laws of tenancy are skewed to protect the tenants. Because if many more tenants are thrown into the streets, I and you cannot get here.
Yes.
So laws in that regard are actually safeguards. You know, you cannot send out a tenant without 6 months' notice. You cannot do this without that. Right. Those are subtle areas, guardrails.
Okay, Mr. Boro.
Yeah.
You said a new law is coming in.
Yes.
Can we have an idea of what the law looks like? We're not saying go all the way, but do you have, just give us, a bit of some kind of information of what the new law contains.
Why I would not be able to do that? Because there's a public hearing and they are going to review whatever the public has said. Okay,
so you're not giving us an idea of what the law sounds like. So let's even have an idea of what it looks like.
Well,
yes, what you said at the public
hearing. The areas that I am concerned about.
Right.
If you are a monthly tenant and you owe rent for 2 months,
right,
the landlord does not need to give you a quick notice now, but give you 7 days notice of intention to go to court.
Okay. So how long would it be in court debating that amount he has not paid?
Let me not go to the details of this because much of the issues that will come up there are going to be handled by originating summons.
Okay.
Originating summons are processes where it is document to document only.
Okay.
So if I as a landlord now say that your rent is 50,000 and I now file an originating summons where I put all of these, you are supposed to respond by way of another document. But meanwhile, whenever landlord and tenants, because I'm a mediator, I mediate in a public center, right, where people will always disagree on rents, disagree at the last point at which rent was paid, and all of these. So if such disagreements are natural to it, why should originating summons come into a landlord and tenant law? I don't understand it.
Okay.
But of course, the government knows better.
All right.
And they know why they are doing that.
All right.
So that's why I say I don't want to go into details.
All right.
Whatever comes up finally in the law is what is. What I'm saying about now is in the area of speculation because it has not been passed into law. But that is the document that we have seen and we have commented publicly.
Thank you for that information. Please put your hands together. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Barrister Toyin, having heard everything he said, I just want to put this to you. You are advocating for the government to come step in. Yeah. But you know that this particular regulation you are clamoring for would discourage investors. Investors now know that if I build an apartment for rentage, I won't get my returns on time. And regulation can be very, very slicky, might not give me what I want. I cannot invest. I'm a businessman. I want to invest in properties. But suddenly the government is stepping in and I know how frustrating that can be. Would that not also drive away investors and give people a reason not to have houses? At the moment people are vulnerable, no houses, the economy will cave down. How do you come?
Thank you. So, the economy is a multifaceted sector.
Agreed, yeah.
Yes. When you allow things to arbitrarily increase, it causes inflation.
Right.
And if, as a tenant, there's no business you are going to do that does not have regulations. Okay. And if you are going to invest in the property business, you should have it in the back of your mind that there's a law. Of course, the government will not say that, oh, it's going to be debt, is it going to be a very low amount?
While I agree with you,
yes.
But Barrister Toyin, you know that there are some stubborn tenants.
I agree.
Even with regulation,
I agree.
They gave you 6 months to leave the house.
I agree.
You are still there.
Yes.
7 months. Some spent 2 years.
Yes.
They didn't pay rent.
Yes.
I mean,
even now, where there is arbitrarily increase in rent, are those tenants not still existing? Yes. Tenants still exist. You cannot put away this kind of tenants from tenant and landlord relationship.
But we've seen tenants destroy landlord properties.
They
break the windows. They are angry. They break the doors.
Even now that the prices are so high, are they not doing it?
Let me not put this.
Most times,
all right.
These tenants do it because they are frustrated. Yes. They want to get back at the landlord, and they feel that is the only way to get back at the landlord. There was a viral video of a young woman who did some improvement on a property.
Right.
And then the landlord sent her away.
Why?
Before time, right?
Why?
Yeah, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Her own way of getting back at the landlord was to remove all the improvements she did. So, but if there's regulation, this regulation is not just on the landlord only. It's also on the tenant. And let me tell you, when you get a property, and you get the property at a reasonable amount, do you know that you are happy with the landlord, you are happy with yourself, because you know this is something that you can afford. So let me tell you, under the law, do you know that a tenant can actually sue a landlord for unreasonable price increments?
Okay, but under that law, how many times have such laws been enforced?
Yeah, I was going to come to that to say that actually increments in rents is already being regulated by the government. Section 37 of the Landlord and Tenant Law, 2011, says if your landlord increases your rent unreasonably, you can take him to court. But,
all right, you can take him to court, but will you win?
You should win if you can prove the issues. But the first question is, do you have the capacity to take him to court?
Okay, but
can you pay the lawyers?
Okay.
You are unable to pay rent. Are you talking of paying lawyers?
Okay, Mr. Boro, we've seen landlord increase rent by 100%. Sometimes 150. How reasonable is that?
Even 300.
Then the law, there is a provision of law that currently exists. Take him to court if you dare.
Okay. If I dare.
Yes. I use that knowing the kind of system we live in.
Exactly.
You know?
You see, the system is kind of skewed. It's kind of skewed to favor the landlord against the tenants. Yes! You know, that is what the system is.
Clap now. Land, let me go on the break.
So, what I am advocating for, and I still advocate for, that all these rules that are in our law book should be enforced.
Right.
So that at the end of the day, the landlord is happy, the tenant is also happy.
All right, thank you very much. Put your hands together once again. Hold on, we're not done yet. We have our distinguished audience eagerly waiting to delve into the discussion. Let's take a breather and it will be spotlights on the audience. This is the big... Welcome back. Just joining us, this is still the big... All right, right now we are going straight to the audience to have some participation in what's happening here today, and we are still hinged on the topic, should the government step in to regulate tenancy rent, or should private partnership owners continue to do what they have to do because it's their own property? So we have our brother here. What's your name again?
Thank you, Mr. Mike. My name is Wale Fakuyi.
Okay.
I'm an author and I'm also a consultant.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for having me on Big Issue. I want to ask, perhaps a more pertinent question could have been...
Who is your question directed to now?
Okay, Barrister Boro.
Okay.
Enforcement. We have a large and diverse nation. He has spoken preponderantly on how that we have enforcement gap. So how do we begin to enforce all of these laws? We know that some of them have been repealed, but we have existing laws that we can begin to enforce how that your rent is increased arbitrarily and you want to take your landlord to the court. But we also know that there are laxities, timing in court processes. So how do we put
Close
all
that
of
gap.
this? How do we enforce all of this and so that everybody can get on the same scale?
All right, Mr. Boro, can you respond quickly to that?
Yeah, when you talk about enforcement, are you saying an enforcement after a judgment? Because if you can take your landlord to court for unreasonable rent, there will be a judgment either way, either that yes, it can increase or no, it cannot increase. And when you talk about enforcement at that level, the courts have a way of enforcing its judgments.
Okay. All right. No, has he answered your question?
Thank you. That's brilliant. But what I'm asking is that if we know that in a co-Atlantic, there's a cap on rent, you're getting a room self-contained, it's capped at 500. So there won't be arbitrary increase on that. So how do we make sure, because averagely, we've seen the cases where somebody is the same property goes for different, there are variation in the prices, and as such, somebody is paying 600,000 naira, the landlord increased to ₦1 million, and once your rent expires, automatically you pay that amount. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
How do we enforce that?
No, if the laws I know of, I think some of them are in the tenancy law now, do not pay beyond XYZ. If you pay beyond XYZ, you are in trouble. The person that receives it from you is in trouble. So who is going to report who?
All right. Contributions. Your name?
Yes, my name is Murakin Oshakiru.
All right.
I'm a realtor.
All right.
So my contribution is with what Barrister Boro said.
You are supporting him?
Yes, because why I would support him is that there was an issue that happened at Oyadon Estate when we want to rent an apartment for a client. So the lawyer is charging us an agreement of 1.2. And the commission...
Agreement, 1.2.
1.2. And the agreement is 400. Now, the issue there is when you're renting an apartment, the commission, people always do complain about the agency, but they don't know that the agency doesn't have the rights. The agency is a solicitor in getting an apartment for you.
Right.
And whereby you are getting an apartment, the contribution is slashed into two, collected by the landlord and the lawyer. So the little, agency work is networking. So you have this referral here and there. So by the time maybe you are sharing, an agency is sharing like 100,000 with 4 people. And the lawyer is carrying the largest share. So, and also from the development aspect as well, if you want to develop a property in Lagos State, one, you must go for LABCA. There is a certain amount they charge you. You go for soil test.
Okay.
a certain amount. Documentation, a certain amount.
Let me get you right. Isn't that why we are saying the government should step in and knock off all these...
It's the same government I'm talking about. Because it's the same government that is taking that money. And at the end of the day, where will the money comes in?
All right, pass the mic. Pass the mic. You are ready for war. All right, what's your name? And,
Good afternoon. My name is Samson Edith, and I'm a student of National Open University from
fantastic.
level.
Please put your hands together for us.
So my first question is to her.
Okay.
And the question is, we all know the reason why they are bringing up this regulation of a thing. We know that it is because of these newly built houses. Now, my question is, are they going to focus on only the newly built houses, or they're also going to focus on those old houses that are cracking down already? Because if they are talking about regulation, I'm very sure they will not want to do a maintenance on those houses that are cracking. So what is the government going to do about it? I have another question, sir. And the second question is to him. Okay. So now, sir, is it a must that we have agents? We know that, yes, we have people that are working. They don't have that time to go for house hunting. That's why we have these agents that stand in. But at the same time, we know that these agents are unemployed. That is the reason why they use that agent as a means to get money to feed their family. But at the same time, like he said, we know that the lawyers are the one that takes most of the money. So the little share that they get is what they use to fend for their family. But at the same time, sir, is it a must that we have agents to stand in between the landlord and the tenant?
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Aboro, before you answer, you heard what she said.
Yes,
Would they go back to the old structures and do the maintenance and do the regulation there? Please.
Now, when we say government regulation, we're talking about a holistic intervention. It is not just about rent increment. It is about even the rights of the landlord and the rights of the tenants. Look, I remember I grew up in Delta State. There was a time that every house that was along the road was mandated to paint, their houses. Or because government invariably, actually, because of the certificate of occupancy, are actually the real landlords of every house. Of every property. Yeah. So they were mandated that every house that was along the major road must paint their building, and it was done. So what we are saying is that the regulations we're talking about are holistic. The old ones should also be maintained. The old ones should also be renovated. Even in Lagos, we have situations where the Lagos State Building Control Agency comes and demolishes a house that is that is a risk to its occupants. So we're talking about a holistic regulation.
Okay. All right, Mr. Boro. She's asking, is there a need for agents? And you also know that agents sometimes, most of them are not even registered. Somebody can just wake up and say, I'm an agent. And they just start house hunting, helping you. They go meet the landlord. So how do you tackle this problem?
No, I think that my colleague should be very happy that agency is already being regulated, if you come by the way of regulation. But can it be enforced? Can it truly be regulated? And let me disabuse your mind. Not all agents are jobless people. It's a professional training. Real estate agents. It's just like you have a fix in every profession, even in the profession of law. There are some people that go around, particularly in the real estate environment, calling themselves lawyers when they are not. So for a trained estate agent is there to provide a service. And what is the service? To assist you to identify vacant properties. It is not mandatory. If you can find a vacant property of your own, please deal with the landlord directly. But again, there's a caveat here. There are some landlords, even when you meet them directly, they say, go and meet my agent. So that's a problem.
All right.
So agency is a necessity. It is needed, but you can, of your own, seek an apartment and get into it.
Thank you very much. All right. A contribution.
Thank you so much, Baba Landlord. My name is Obera Favor Niola, and I'm a final year student of National Open University and accounting aspirant. Thank you so much.
All right.
So my contribution is that if the government wants to regulate these tenant rent, I feel like the government should start from the foundation. They should start from the new houses which they are already going to build. There should be a body that will support both the government and the landlords.
Okay.
And that body should also support the tenant too as well.
Okay.
I feel like there should be a body that will speak for the tenants. Like in my own experience, my landlord came and increased my rent 100%.
Okay.
And the next thing is that it's either you pay or you leave. So we are able to come into an agreement, which he later reduced it to 80%.
Okay.
Like Baba said that if you cannot afford it, you should not go. We went into that place because we could afford it. But at the end, they end up increasing this rent. And when we speak, even if we decide to, okay, let's take this thing to court, we are going to spend nothing less than our 2 years rent on court issue. So my problem is that the government should also come in.
Okay.
There should be, like they call these people, ombudsman. Or there should be a body who will also fight for the tenant too as well.
All right. Thank
and
you
also
very
a
much.
body who will fight for the landlord. Thank you so much.
Contribution well noted. Yes, your question.
My name is Favor Momachukud, maybe. A final year student of the National Open University.
All right.
So my question is, when it comes to maintenance, I mean, you know,
Who is your question directed to?
the both of them on this one. So when it comes to maintenance, for example, when some tenant wants to leave the house, you know, when it comes to government regularizing the house, you know. So if the tenants get to spoil property, or sometimes even when you go into an apartment and you find out that those properties are spoiled and all of that, you know, there is sometimes an agreement from the tenants to the landlord. When I fix it, you pay me, or you know, you deduct it. And now the government is coming in. So in that scenario, would it be that the landlords will still be in charge to maintain it? After all, the governments are coming in, and you will know the government would, you know, when it comes to government issues, it always lingers, and there's a lot of protocols and all of that, you know. And when it comes to the government also, you know, with the little we've seen so far, let's use the Lagos transport system, for example, you know, the officials they put in place to checkmate certain things, they are the one ending up even frustrating those people involved. The hoodlums are there taking their money. So I'm just thinking, if we're talking about trusting the government, when it comes to the ones that they are handling, and they are handling this way, how are we sure when it comes to this they can handle it better?
Thank you. All right, Barrister, that question is technically for you. Saying if there has to be maintenance and government steps in, can we trust the government to take up the maintenance as quickly as possible for the tenant to move in? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to government, you know how it is, like she said. So when are we going to have a precise, you know, level of trust for government to do what they need to do if they are actually to step in to regulate it?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And all over the world, global practice, it is not the government that maintains a property for a landlord. It is not done anywhere. I'm yet to see where it is done. So when we're talking about government regulation, we're not saying that the government takes over the rent of the house. That the tenant doesn't pay the rent to the government. It still pays to the landlord. And one of the covenants of the landlord is to take care, maintain that property. And government coming in doesn't stop that covenant. What we are just saying is this, that all over the world, there is always government input in sensitive situations like this. If government comes into rent regulation, tenancy and landlord regulation, we're just saying that, okay, let government put the bare minimum so that the vulnerable, which mostly are the tenants, are protected. And because that is the objective of any law, the protection of the vulnerable.
All right. Thank you very much. Come on, guys, put your hands together for them, everyone. Well, intriguing, educating, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an eye-opening moment round. Let's take a short break, and when we return, we shall be wrapping things up right here on your favorite show, The Big... Welcome back. You're still watching The Big. Now we are gradually winding down. Quickly, let's hear our final words from our fantastic guests right here. 30 seconds each for them to coast home with their final thoughts. Barrister Boro, you have been quite firm on your stand about the fact that, private partnership, property ownership should stay where it is without government interference. How do you wrap this up in 30 seconds?
Yeah, let me state that landlord and tenants' rights issues are issues of contract. Government should not interfere with that.
Right.
What government should do is to create an enabling environment where more people can afford to build. And as more people are able to build, there will be a lot more vacancies that are available. And then for Nigerians to also be able to work and to make money in order to be able to afford the property they desire. So if you create an enabling environment, that is government's business. Let them allow us as individuals to interact, negotiate, and deal with ourselves business-wise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Barrister Toyin, you are firmly saying government should step in and regulate the nonsense going on with all of the issues about hikes. How do you coast home in 30 seconds?
Exactly. I like the word you use, the nonsense. The truth of the matter is that property business is a long-term investment. Landlords should not be greedy and feel that they can recoup everything they have invested in one swoop. I also believe that government can also balance this deficit by building more accommodations. We have had it Jack on the estates, we have had government estates. Maybe if government will also bring in more buildings, these greedy landlords will only have their houses to themselves and tenants will be fine.
All right, thank you very much. Please put your hands together again for these two people, please. These two esquires, these two legal luminaries. Well, as with the culture of the big issue, after a heated argument, there's also time for friendship. All right, this is about just having to argue about a situation. We're not meant to leave here with grudges. So, Barrister Toyin, Barrister Boro, please, can you just shake hands? Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, of course, two powerful perspectives on a national dilemma, right? Should the government take over tenancy rent regulation in Nigeria? You decide. But before we actually finally coast home, I want to actually, give a shout out to a very special person right here in our midst. She's an amazing individual. She's Chef Anani. Chef Anani is responsible. Thank you. Hold on. You guys have not even asked me why we are celebrating her. You heard Chef, you are celebrating. Actually, Chef Anani actually was responsible for the delicacy you guys will be having right here on the show today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your welfare support, and thank you for everything you have done to ensure that this audience are cheering the way they're cheering. Because I can tell that whatever you're preparing for them is why they're giving you this support, right? Please put your hands together once again. All right, thank you very much, sir. It's been a wonderful time right here on the show. And of course, for those of you out there just joining us, we need to tell you that to follow the big issue, just follow it online. Big Issue on TV. Big Issue on TV. That is how you can actually hold sway with understanding what we do here on the show and going all the way. Well, thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. And please, if you're at home, just ensure that you're able to tell those who really love engaging conversations to always tune in to the Big. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Peace.